Hi, today we're going to have a look at setTimeout JavaScript function, which allows us to postpone or delay certain events. Let's look at this form. We're not going to be validating this form. We're not going to be submitting data anyway. It's just basically so that when we click on submit button, the form will fade out, the message will fade in, and after a few seconds, message fades out, and the form fades back in. So if we go to our editor, exercise files, once you've downloaded them, you'll have a ready CSS file, you'll have a ready HTML file, index.html, and a folder with JS files, with JavaScript files, basically latest version of jQuery, and core.js, which is blank. Now our index.html already has the entire structure. So we put this form in. It may as well be just a button, really, because we're not going to be doing anything with this form. So let's open our core.js and start with the document ready. So function as a shorter version of two curly brackets, and inside we start with the submit, which is basically the button, submit button, the ID assigned to the submit button within the form. Then we have live, and we look for the click. We're using live because obviously after the form has faded in, we need to obviously rebind the click to the submit button. So we're using live basically. So whenever the Ajax or jQuery basically reloads the form dynamically, we'll be able to click on the button. Now function. And first thing we're going to do, we're going to identify the form equals this closest form. Then we create a clone of the form. So for var form underscore clone equals form dot clone. We basically cloning the form element. Now what you would do here, you would do basically call Ajax perform validation etc. Once you've done this and you've obviously and the response was positive, then what you would do is form replace with, and we're going to replace it with $, and in between the brackets div with the class confirmation, and in between the opening and closing div tag we're going to put a message: form has been submitted successfully. Okay, then after this element basically still inside of the replace with, we fade in at the speed of 300 milliseconds, function, then opening and closing curly brackets, and we start with the set timeout. Okay, set timeout, and then function as the first parameter, and the second parameter will be the time which we want to delay the event by. I'm going to use 2000 milliseconds, basically 2 seconds, and then we go for confirmation, and we want to fade out again 300 milliseconds, function on callback. And on callback we do this, replace with, and we're going to replace it with the form clone. And again, this form clone we want to fade in at 300 milliseconds. Then semicolon at the end, and that's everything. If we now hide the file browser, as you can see, we use set timeout. Set timeout basically works this way. First, it waits the time which we specify as a second parameter, and once this time is gone, is up basically, then it executes the first parameter, which is the function. So obviously after we fade it in with this confirmation, we wait 2 seconds, then it will fade out the confirmation and fade in our clone of the form basically. So that's how it works. So if we now save the file, go back to the browser, here's our new one. If we refresh it, click on submit, hey, message fades in, 2 seconds, fades out, and the form fades back in. So that's how you can use setTimeout JavaScript function.